Hello and welcome to Dining with Death. This episode is on my playlist, Deadly Destinations, where we visit the sites of terrible events. I'm coming to you today from Santa Cruz, California, where a serial killer stalked the area. I'm going to take you on a little tour of the town, we're going to look around a little bit, and of course we're going to eat here. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. Santa Cruz, located on the coast of Central California, is a much-beloved city known for stunning natural landscapes and a laid-back beach town atmosphere. It's famous for its redwood forests, winding mountain roads, and rolling waves. Santa Cruz offers plenty to do for nature lovers and beachgoers and tourists of any kind. I have never been to a place where you can be at the beach 1 minute and literally 10 minutes later you can be in the mountains surrounded by the tallest trees you've ever seen. I would say the most popular destination in Santa Cruz is the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, home to one of the oldest amusement parks in California. But I am saving our tour of the Beach Boardwalk for a haunted episode, which I'm very excited for. Like me, a lot of you are horror movie lovers, and there have been so many fantastic films shot and filmed at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. That episode is coming soon on my playlist, Dining with the Deceased, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be really fun. Today we are going to focus on the town of Santa Cruz and one, yes, I said one, of the very infamous serial killers that terrorized the area. But first, the marine life here in Santa Cruz. It's incredible. We spent hours hanging out with the seals and the birds, and I want you to get a little taste of that. So I'm going to stop talking here for a moment and just let you enjoy this beach ASMR along with this super cute dude who was posing for my camera. Isn't that just the cutest ever? I'm not an expert here. Are they sea lions? Are they seals? But they love to hang out under the pier, and we watched for about 3 minutes this big guy struggle to get up onto the horizontal beam. I'm going to speed the clip up so you can see all of his attempts. But then once he gets up there, there's a little fight and then a celebration. Don't you love his victory barks as he wins this little battle? Look at all of them. They're like big old slugs sunning themselves on the pier braces, and I could watch them all day. We really did spend hours looking at them and watching them fight and play and listening to the sounds they make. If you're visiting the area with kids, they have the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is a fantastic destination. We heard all about it. We did not visit on this trip, but I'm going to in the future. It's about an hour from Santa Cruz, and they have, I think they said 35,000 plants and animals, otters, sharks, penguins. So we will definitely be hitting that in the future. One place we did go is the Mystery Spot. I bet it was maybe 15 or 20 years ago. I was watching one of those shows on the Travel Channel where they talk about geographic locations with anomalies, physical properties that cannot be explained. And I don't have the best memory in the world, but when something sticks with me, it really sticks with me. And I distinctly remember hearing about this place, the Mystery Spot. We drove from our hotel on the beach, just maybe 15 or 20 minutes up the canyon. It's not far at all from downtown Santa Cruz. Honestly, the drive alone is worthwhile even if there wasn't something great at the end of it. Look at these redwoods. You hear about redwoods and you hear about how tall they are, but until you see them, I don't think it fully sinks in. Tall trees in my area are tall. We have giant pines and really lovely quakies and things like that, but they do not in any way compare to the size and height of the California redwood. These trees are magical. They're magical. You feel like you're in some kind of Tolkien film or Harry Potter or something when you're walking among them because they're just too magnificent to be real, but they are real. Nestled among these ancient giants is the mystery spot, a place where it is said that the laws of physics don't apply. We arrived and paid for our tickets. It's not very expensive. And then they take you in tour groups up this winding little path, which is very, very steep, to the top of a small hill that is home to this very unusual cabin. As you can see, it's crooked, and the tour guide, who was this really funny and quick-witted kid, tells the story of how the cabin was built and then slipped down the mountain. He tells you about how people feel strange when they're here and often get lightheaded or sick to their stomachs. Well, I knew this beforehand, so I had a little talk with myself and reminded myself to be really aware of that and to think critically, not to buy into the lore. And even with that, I'm telling you, I did feel lightheaded and I did feel sick to my stomach. A lot of people went inside the cabin and some were even jumping around and hanging off of things, but nope, not me. I walked in and I had to kind of keep my head down and I walked straight out and felt very weird afterwards. Some people are affected and some people aren't. Then they do this little demonstration showing how a pool ball rolls uphill instead of down. And then my husband was asked to participate in this little experiment where people seem to change heights. Now, of course, a lot of this is an optical illusion, but I don't know about all of it. There is definitely something a little strange about this place, which is also, by the way, home to the rare banana slug. Apparently, you don't always get to see them, but Jason's got an eagle eye, and he spotted one out in the dirt by the parking lot. Pretty soon, there were 50 people crowded around to take a look, so I guess we got lucky in getting to see this very unusual and very large and very slimy banana slug. If you're in Santa Cruz, the mystery spot is a don't miss experience. Definitely hit this if you're here. Surfers come to Santa Cruz to enjoy some of the best waves in the state. The beaches are perfect for beginners and expert surfers alike. That's why this place is a haven for surfers from all around the world. Even though it was fall and there was a chill in the air when we last visited, there were surfers everywhere, and as you can see, the beaches are stunning. The people are too. This is one of those places where you just can't really imagine something bad happening, but bad things happen everywhere. Most of the people are just super chill, very laid back, and they gravitate here and live here because of that vibe. Santa Cruz is a bit newer than some of the cities in California. It was established around 1791. The name means Holy Cross. It was initially established by Spanish explorer Gaspar de Portola and the Catholic priests he brought with him. They established Santa Cruz as a mission, which was built to teach and convert the native people of the area. You know, no matter where we talk about, we got to remember the natives were doing just fine without religion. In 1822, Mexico won independence from Spain and the mission was dissolved. So that led to the mission being turned into a rancho, which was split up and sold in the 1840s. Then the gold rush happened, and Santa Cruz became a popular destination for those seeking riches. By the 20th century, Santa Cruz had become a popular tourist destination, attracting visitors from all around the world who were eager to experience the area's natural beauty and laid-back atmosphere. This is a traveler's paradise, and not a place you would envision has any kind of dark side. But we are true crime lovers. We know that no matter how beautiful and tranquil a place appears on the outside, bad things happen everywhere, and Santa Cruz is no exception. This is Herbert Mullin. Herbert Mullin was an American serial killer who terrorized the citizens here in Santa Cruz in the early 1970s. He was born in April of 1947 in nearby Salinas. He doesn't appear to have suffered abuse like so many of these killers that we study, but Herbert was very mentally ill. His life started out promising. He was even voted most likely to succeed in high school. But then signs of paranoid schizophrenia began to emerge. When one of his close friends was killed in a car accident in 1965, Herbert was devastated, and he began to show his devastation in strange and unusual ways. He built not one, but several shrines to his dead friend and began to talk incessantly about him. People around Herbert realized he was obsessed with this terrible tragedy, and some of the things he began to say were disturbing. Not only did Herbert build shrines to his dead friend, but he began to believe in reincarnation, and when he did, he spoke about Dean, this friend, and said he would come back to him in another form. Herbert's mental health began to really decline, and by 1969, it was clear that he was severely ill. He was admitted to Mendocino State Hospital several times, but each time after a short stay, when he was determined not to be dangerous, he was released. Well, Herbert Mullin was dangerous. He was very, very dangerous. And then he began to use LSD and upped his usage of marijuana. That made everything worse. After one stint in the mental hospital, Herbert became hyperfixated on the fact that he was born on April 18th, which is the same day that the great San Francisco earthquake of 1906 occurred. Because of his illness, Herbert became convinced that because he was born on the same day as the earthquake, 40-some-odd years after that earthquake, that he was meant to stop the next big earthquake from happening. He got it into his head that in order to stop the next earthquake, people had to die. He began to write down his theories and his beliefs that basically went like this. Herbert believed that the Vietnam War had staved off recent earthquakes. He believed that enough people died during the war that the earthquakes had been stopped through kind of some sort of blood sacrifice. But now, in 1972, the war was coming to an end, and in order for him to continue to stave off the earthquakes, he must take it upon himself to begin killing people. Herbert even began to believe that his father was telepathically ordering him to kill in order to save the world from these earthquakes. This is why conspiracy theories are so dangerous. It's a hop, skip, and a jump to total and complete insanity. On October 13th, 1972, Herbert Mullin commits his first murder. He killed a hitchhiker named Lawrence White, who went by Whitey, who was driving from San Diego to Santa Cruz. Herbert believed the murder would prevent this catastrophic earthquake that he was convinced was coming. He later told people that Whitey looked like Jonah, from the Bible, and that Jonah had been sending him telepathic messages in his dreams. A couple of weeks later, Herbert picked up a female hitchhiker named Mary Margaret Guilfoyle and killed her, and then, examined her after death because he said her organs were polluted. Just a few weeks later, on November 2nd, 1972, Herbert went to a Catholic church and told the priest there that he had fought in World War II and the French Revolution. He was reincarnated, and he was now looking for someone to act as a sacrifice to stave off these earthquakes. He then opened the confessional box, hit and kicked and stabbed the priest, and then ran away. A witness later reported seeing a tall, thin man running from the church. January 25th, 1973, Herbert goes to a remote cabin where he believed a friend of his lived, but instead he found the Francis family living there. Now, these cabins were by the mystery spot that we visited earlier. Herbert was looking for Jim Gianera, but Kathy Francis opened the door instead and told Herbert, "You're at the wrong cabin. The cabin you're looking for is down the road." Well, Herbert heard something totally different. He claims Kathy told him that she and her children, David and Damon, wanted to be blood sacrifices, and so Herbert shot and killed the entire family. The two little boys were just like 9 and 3. After committing this terrible act, Herbert left the cabin and went down the road, found his friend, Jim, and demanded to know why Jim had ever offered him marijuana. He was angry with Jim, blaming him for his own drug use. Jim, of course, was very confused by all of this and tried to close the door on Herbert. Herbert then pushed his way in and shot Jim. When his wife came from the back of the house, he shot her as well. He left 5 people dead that day. So the local police now had a murdered priest, some dead hitchhikers, and people shot in cabins down the road from each other. They thought the cabin murders were drug-related and did not connect them to anything else that had happened in the area. At some point during this same period of time, Herbert Mullin tried to join the Marines. He thought that if he were a Marine, he could kill people legally. But during his meeting with the recruiter, Herbert refused to sign a copy of his criminal records, so he was, thankfully, refused a spot in the military. On February 10th, 1973, Herbert was hiking in the state park here in Santa Cruz, and there he ran into 4 teenaged boys: Robert Spector, Brian Scott Card, David Oliker, and Mark DeBrilbus. Herbert knew the boys were camping illegally, and he told them he was a park ranger. He told them they had to leave because they were polluting the forest with their presence. The boys kind of laughed him off and then told him to leave their campsite. The next day, the boys were still there when Herbert returned and shot all 4 of them dead. He then drove back into town and killed a man named Fred Abbey Perez, who was simply working in his garden in his yard in Santa Cruz. Now, I have to mention there are other deaths believed to be associated with Mullin: a psychiatrist and his wife, an attorney and his wife, and we will cover them more in depth in an episode about Herbert Mullin specifically. But on the day Herbert killed Fred Perez, he did it in broad daylight right in front of Fred's neighbor, who was able to take down the license plate of Herbert's car. That information was sent out over the police radio, and minutes later, a police officer pulled Herbert over. At first, the police did not connect all of the murders to Herbert Mullin, and the different locations and MOs were complicated by the fact that, unbelievably, Herbert was not the only serial killer operating in Santa Cruz at the time. Edmund Kemper was smack in the middle of his killing spree in the same town, so you can imagine the police not only had their hands full, but there was a lot of confusion. In the end, many of the killings were linked, and the DA charged Herbert Mullin with 10 murders. His trial began on July 30th, 1973. On the opening day of the trial, Herbert pled guilty to the murder of Henri Tomei, the priest, and for this single murder, he was sentenced to life in prison. Herbert came up for parole 8 times, and each time he was denied. There is a lot of information about Herbert's life in prison, including his interactions with Edmund Kemper, but I will save that for a future episode. Just a few months ago, on August 18, 2022, Herbert Mullin died from natural causes while in custody at the California healthcare facility. He was 75 years old. Now, as we always do on this playlist, we eat in our deadly destination. This is Dining with Death, our little dark travel playlist here. There are so many great places to eat in Santa Cruz, and we tried several, but decided to film at this really fun little spot. I am a sucker for a tiki-themed restaurant. I love the 1950s, I love the 70s, and I love everything tiki. This is Hula's Island Grill and Tiki Room. As you can see, it's got a tropical theme and a dark interior and lots of island-themed and Hawaiian-themed decor. Love this Velvet Elvis painting, right? We started out with coconut shrimp egg rolls, which were fantastic. They were stuffed with minced shrimp and onions and shredded coconut and came with a green tomatillo sauce for dipping. Really good. I got a rum zombie and Jason ordered a Mai Tai. And hello, is there anything better on earth than a tropical cocktail? No, there is not. Nothing on earth. They were so good. The menu was really large, which always makes me a little bit nervous about the food. Usually a smaller menu means better quality dishes, and that held true here. I ordered a tropical grilled chicken salad with some fruit and creamy dressing that was okay, and Jason ordered fish tacos that were pretty good, kind of run-of-the-mill stuff. So while the food didn't blow us away, this is still one of those places I would come back to just for the atmosphere and the drinks. It's a fun little place with a great vibe and an atmosphere that reminds you you're at the beach. You're at the beach in Santa Cruz, California, one of the most spectacular places in the country with so many things to do and see. You could spend months here and experience something new almost every day. But not even beautiful, breathtaking Santa Cruz is immune from bad people who commit evil acts. And Herbert Mullin, he was as bad as they come. Thank you for joining me today on Dining with Death, Deadly Destinations. Hit the like button if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me, and of course, you can also support me by joining my Patreon. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other, and I'll see you next time on Dining with Death. Bye.